My name is Patrick. When my wife left the house for a week, following her friend's advice to teach me a lesson, I did the one thing no one expected. For a long time, I had noticed how deeply her friends influenced her choices. I had tried to gently point out how their guidance never really brought anything positive into our relationship, but she didn't want to hear it. So when they convinced her to walk out, not because she needed space but to punish me, I didn't respond the way they assumed I would. Instead, I did something none of them, not even Maria, could have predicted. Looking back, things hadn't always been like this. In the beginning, our relationship was peaceful and full of promise. Maria and I had been together for a total of 10 years. 3 of those we spent dating long distance, and the other 7 as a married couple. Surprisingly, the distance never caused tension. We made it work through video calls, constant texts, and regular visits. In fact, the distance made every reunion feel more special, and we truly believed that if we could survive that, we could survive anything. But love, even when it feels solid, doesn't prepare you for the everyday challenges of sharing your life with another person. After the wedding, we moved in together for the first time, and everything changed. Suddenly we were sharing every corner of our lives. Our bed, our space, our routines. I had been living alone for years before marriage, so adapting wasn't instant. It was a process. But despite the adjustments, I embraced this new chapter. I loved her, and I believed she loved me just as much. Maria made a huge sacrifice by relocating to my city after the wedding. It meant starting over for her. Together, we searched for jobs, and before long, she was hired at a local bank in customer service. She threw herself into the work and quickly began making friends. I encouraged her to build her own social circle. It felt important that she had a life beyond just being someone's wife. In those early years, our relationship was filled with mutual support and excitement for the future. One thing we had agreed on early in our marriage was to wait before having children. We were both career-focused and wanted to create a strong financial and emotional foundation before taking that step. We said we'd wait a few years, save some money, and enjoy life together. And for a while, that plan worked perfectly. Maria was thriving at work and eventually received a big promotion. She became the head of customer service at her branch. I was proud of her. To celebrate, I took her to her favorite restaurant. We laughed, ate, and toasted to her achievement. Midway through dessert, I gently brought up a thought that had been on my mind. I told her I felt we were in a good place, and that maybe it was time to start thinking about having a child. She smiled politely but steered the conversation elsewhere. I let it go, not wanting to ruin her night. But that response didn't stay a one-time thing. Every time I brought it up after that, she dodged the topic or shut it down quickly with the same phrase. Now's not the time. At first, I told myself it was just the pressure from work. But as more time passed and her tone became increasingly cold each time the subject came up, I started to feel something deeper had shifted. It no longer felt like she was postponing something we both wanted. It felt like she didn't want it at all. That realization became the first real crack in our marriage. One ordinary Tuesday, I got off work earlier than usual and decided to surprise her by coming home early. I hadn't told her, and I didn't expect anything out of the ordinary. But when I walked into the house, I walked into something I wasn't meant to hear. She was in the living room with 2 of her friends. One of them I recognized from a past visit, but the other was a stranger to me. They were chatting and laughing, and I greeted them briefly before heading to the bedroom to give them space. But the walls in our house are thin, and their voices carried. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but I couldn't ignore what I was hearing. One of them was boasting about cutting ties with her second ex-husband, claiming she felt liberated, and repeating that marriage was a scam. The other openly admitted to still seeing a man who was married. She laughed about how his wife knew and couldn't do anything about it. She even called the situation a sign from the universe, saying she was meant to be with him. I sat there stunned. These were the women my wife was letting into her life? Their conversation wasn't just bitter or careless. It was deeply toxic, dripping with pride and actions that hurt others. It wasn't just venting or sharing frustrations. It was poison. And they were serving it with laughter and arrogance, like destruction was something to be proud of. When they finally left, I took some time to cool off, and then brought it up with Maria. I stayed calm and told her honestly how uncomfortable I was with the things I overheard. I explained that I didn't think it was wise to take advice from people who seemed to mock relationships and celebrate infidelity. I hoped she'd understand where I was coming from. When I tried to talk to her about the people she was spending time with, she lashed out. Instead of listening, she accused me of spying on her, said I didn't respect her privacy, and claimed I had no right to judge her friends. I was caught off guard, completely stunned. The conversation ended right there. She wouldn't hear anything I had to say. It became painfully clear to me then that her friends already had a strong hold over her, and she couldn't see it. After that confrontation, I watched her change. Slowly but surely, she started acting like someone I didn't even recognize. Every time she returned from being with those friends, it felt like she was carrying their negativity into our home. She'd be quiet at first, almost as if she was expecting a fight. And then out of nowhere, she'd make wild accusations. At one point, she even said I wasn't leading like a man should. That wasn't something she'd ever said before, not even hinted at. It was like she had been handed a list of complaints to throw at me. I tried to stay calm, to keep things together. But then one night, she came home late, reeking of alcohol. That was completely out of character for her. She was never one to party, especially not during the week. I had no doubt the influence came from the same group of friends who treated reckless choices like badges of honor. I approached her gently and asked, "Are you okay? This doesn't seem like you." But instead of talking to me, she blew up. She accused me of trying to control her, of feeling threatened by her independence. She said I wanted to keep her small. And then she hit me with something I'll never forget. She accused me of wanting to ruin her body by pushing for a child, saying I was trying to trap her in motherhood while keeping myself free. I was speechless. After that night, she pulled away even more. We were living under the same roof, but we might as well have been strangers. She stopped speaking to me. Mornings would pass in silence. She'd come home and disappear into the bedroom without a word. Whenever I tried to talk, she either gave me short replies or ignored me entirely. It felt like just existing near her irritated her. I gave her space. I hoped it was just a phase, something she'd come back from. But the silence grew longer, colder, and heavier. It felt like I was slowly being erased from my own marriage. Then, one morning before the sun had even risen, I stepped out into the hallway and found her by the closet, packing a small travel bag. There had been no talk of a trip. No warning. Nothing. I asked, "Where are you going?" She didn't even look at me at first. She just kept folding shirts and placing them into the bag. When she finally did speak, she told me she was going to stay with a friend for a bit. I asked why. She told me our marriage wasn't working, and that she thought we needed time apart to figure things out. I stood there stunned. Yes, things had been rough lately, we both knew that. But I never thought it would come to this. I tried to talk sense into her. Told her that all couples go through hard times, and that leaving wouldn't fix anything. I even offered counseling. I said I'd be willing to have the hard talks with a therapist if it meant saving our relationship. She just shook her head and said it was only a week apart. A break. Nothing more. I didn't know what else to say. I felt powerless. It's one thing to argue. It's something else entirely when the person you love just quietly checks out and walks away like it means nothing. She left without a glance back. The door clicked shut, and the house suddenly felt colder, heavier. I couldn't pretend I was okay. I called in to work and said I wasn't feeling well. Thankfully, my boss gave me a few days off. I spent most of that day replaying everything, every fight, every change, every sign I ignored. The more I thought about it, the more it became clear. This wasn't just about needing space. This was a slow unraveling. A pattern. And while I still loved her, I couldn't ignore what was right in front of me. If she could walk away this easily, without even trying to fix things, then maybe there was nothing left to fix. It broke my heart, but I opened my laptop and began searching for divorce lawyers. I never thought that word, divorce, would be part of our story. I had imagined growing old with her, facing life's challenges side by side. But love alone can't fix everything. Not when it's met with distance, coldness, and manipulation. I found a lawyer with solid reviews and booked an appointment for the next day. I barely slept that night. At the meeting, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He walked me through everything, how the process works, what to expect, how long it might take. I gave him the go-ahead and told him to move forward. On the 5th day of her being gone, she got served the papers. Just a few hours later, I received a message from her. She said I was bluffing, that this was just some manipulative move to get her back. I remember staring at her message for a while, my chest heavy but my mind clear. Then I typed my response. I'm not bluffing. The marriage is over. That was it. No need to defend myself, no need to keep explaining what I had already said 100 times before. I had spent years trying to hold us together. That evening, I came home exhausted from work. I hadn't even taken off my shoes when I saw her standing there in the living room. The second our eyes met, she rushed toward me like she'd been waiting, maybe even hoping I'd still come home. Her voice trembled as she said, I didn't think you'd actually go through with the divorce. I didn't answer right away. She went on almost desperate, asking me to withdraw the papers, insisting we could still fix things if I gave her time. But something inside me had gone quiet, cold. I looked her in the eyes and told her, you walking out of this house was the final blow. We're done. Then I walked past her. She didn't follow me, not at first. Hours later, I was in the backyard just sitting and trying to gather my thoughts when she came outside and sat next to me. This time, there was no attitude, no blame. She spoke softly, almost like the woman I once knew. She said it wasn't her idea, that her friends told her to leave for a week. They said disappearing would make me panic and back off about wanting a child. I couldn't help but laugh. It was absurd and pathetic that she had taken such advice seriously. I told her, you're free now. Go back to your friends. Maybe they'll help you through the divorce too. That's when she broke down. She grabbed for my hand, crying, saying she didn't want to end up like them, divorced, bitter, and alone. That this wasn't what she expected to happen. But I'd already made my decision. I looked at her and said, if you're willing to hurt your husband just to impress people who couldn't even hold their own marriages together, then you don't deserve one either. She kept begging. Days passed, and the begging didn't stop. But I didn't budge. I didn't let myself get pulled back. If she could walk away that easily once, she could do it again. The divorce wasn't a fast process. But by the time everything was finalized, I had already emotionally moved on. She didn't stop trying though. She kept messaging, calling at strange hours, even showing up uninvited. She wanted me to reverse everything, to pretend like nothing had happened. But I didn't give in. Not out of bitterness, not because I hated her, but because I had finally learned something. Love doesn't mean tolerating constant disrespect. Especially not from someone who can't even see what they did wrong. Eventually, it was official. The court signed off. Everything was divided and settled. I won't lie and say I'm happy about how things ended. No one walks into a marriage expecting it to end like this. Broken because someone chose the opinions of outsiders over the person they promised to stand beside. It hurt. But oddly enough, it also brought a sense of relief. I don't come home to cold silences anymore. I don't deal with the passive-aggressive comments or a partner who changes based on who she last talked to. I don't have to wonder whether I'm coming home to the woman I fell in love with, or the one her friends turned her into. If you're listening and you're going through something similar, or you've already been there, let me tell you this. You're not overreacting. You're not demanding too much. Relationships are meant to be between two people, not a crowd, not a group of friends acting like judges and advisors. A partner who lets outsiders poison your home isn't worthy of the trust that comes with marriage. And when someone chooses toxicity over loyalty, believe them, and protect your peace.